Alrighty, Michelle. So we're live. I'm just going to go over to LinkedIn and do a check. Alrighty. All right, so we're live. All right, so hey, good morning, folks. My name is Mike Loyd. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Dope Coffee Company. I'm really excited because this morning I'm here with Michelle Thimesch. She's the CEO of Crowdfund Mainstreet, which is a regulation crowdfund approved portal. And she's been working with us here at Dope Coffee for the past few years, raising capital successfully for our company. So if you don't mind, you give a quick introduction for yourself, and let's kind of get into our chat this morning.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Like Mike said, my name is Michelle Thimesch. I'm a business and securities lawyer. I have been for about the last 20 years, as well as the founder of Crowdfund Mainstreet, a regulation crowdfunding platform. It's important for me to note that Crowdfund Mainstreet is really all about using investment crowdfunding as an economic development tool. We're interested in changing the face of what gets funded, who gets funded in our country. And for that reason, we love to showcase the offerings that are listed on Crowdfund Mainstreet, like Dope Coffee, and have this opportunity to have a conversation with the founders and see what their growth path looks like and their why and things like that. So happy to be here with you today.
Absolutely. So, yeah, where do you want to get things started this morning?
Yeah, I'd love for you to tell, I know a lot of people know your story, but I'd love for you to just sort of briefly talk about how Dope Coffee came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dope Coffee is 3 years old right now. And we started, we actually had a coffee brand, right, prior to Dope Coffee. It's called Solar Cafe. So Eastern North Carolina. This was 2015 through 2018. We were an active duty Marine Corps family in a small town in Eastern North Carolina without coffee. And we had a passion for it, right? We had just moved from Southern California, which has a big coffee scene. And so we had a strong passion for coffee, and the community didn't have a great coffee shop. And so two things right off the bat became very important for us. Like, how do you create community? How do you bring nice things to the community? So that's where our story started. We moved to Atlanta in 2018 and had a real big cultural awakening. And as 2019 and 2020 progressed, a lot of the social unrest and just the rise in awareness of what it means to have culture and to advocate for culture really came to the forefront of not just our lives, but America's lives, right? And Dope Coffee kind of was formed in that wave. And so it's been, it's been an amazing opportunity for us to be able to create a coffee brand that can, speak to inclusivity, can speak to diversity, but also can speak to uplifting the culture, but also at the same time be a strong financial model for how to, generate wealth, how to, close the wealth gap, how to create opportunities in distressed communities like the ones I'm from. So it's been a great journey, one that's allowed us to go beyond just coffee and really just dive headfirst into culture. So that's us.
Yeah, and I'm curious to know how you came to be interested in crowdfunding and why you chose that in particular as your path to seeking investment.
Yes. So kind of going back to my first business, Solar Cafe, I started that off with just a personal loan from the bank, $25,000. And so I went and took that loan out. And it was good to still have access to some capital. I was able to get the business open and get it running. But what I noticed very quickly is that the cash flow, right? I was being just hounded by how do I make, repayments as soon as I opened the business. And I realized quickly that wasn't the best way to finance a startup, especially when you don't already have customers, you don't have revenue, things like that you know is coming. So I went out and I looked for capital. I went to my friends and my family in the community, and honestly, I came back with zero. And that's kind of when I went like, oh man, I'm not that founder that you kind of read about in Forbes where, you go to your friends and family, you come back with $400,000 and you get to, kind of go on this wonderful entrepreneur journey. In fact, I came up with something like about $2,000-3,000, which again, I was still grateful to raise that, but that wasn't going to cover one piece of equipment that I needed purchased. And so I was in an accelerator, and they just talked about different ways of financing startups. And so crowdfunding came up. And so I had heard of the Jobs Act before, but I didn't know anyone who could realistically make crowdfunding work, right? And so I learned about Crowdfund Mainstreet. I learned about you and Jenny, and that was through Nikishka. She really helped us to understand the concept. And once I connected with you guys, it made a lot more sense of how I could see Dope Coffee raising capital through our customers and through the public. Crowdfunding really is the only tool that would allow a founder like me who doesn't have a deep network and a deep social circle to expand like where I can bring in money from, right? And so like through crowdfunding, a good chunk of our investment dollars should come from the West Coast. I don't live on the West Coast, right? I live in the Southeast. And so I didn't have real access to find the people that had money. And crowdfunding, it just opens up the playing field to who's allowed to go find money and where you can find it from.
Yeah, a couple of really interesting things that you've touched on. One is really about how the way you raise capital is really important to what you're trying to do, not just from a needs perspective, but also from the vantage point of what helps this company grow and what helps this company thrive. One of the things I want to point out about investment crowdfunding, and the thing that we focus on, is that you are able to craft an offering. Mike was talking about how that loan from the bank, which was great, a $25,000 loan from the bank, but those bank loans, especially the higher that they get, the higher the numbers, those paybacks start immediately, and there's no accounting for the fact of the early stage nature of a company. So absolutely. I think that one of the things that's kind of cool about investment crowdfunding or regulation crowdfunding is that there's this opportunity to craft an offering that is good for the company and good for the investors. Have you found that being able to craft an offering that works for you has made it easier for you to talk about the offering, invite people in? And what is it doing for you to have crafted your own offering instrument? Has it given you a new sense of freedom to build this company the way you want to? Like, how is that going?
Yeah, if you can't tell by the smile that's starting to come through on my face. You're a securities lawyer, right? And I don't think most of America has the slightest clue of what a security is, right? And what I did not realize is the value that I have as a founder. I didn't realize the value that my brand had. And so to be able to craft the offer that says, invest in my company, right? And here's what I will give you in return. Beyond any of the finances, it created a massive level of confidence in myself, right? Like that. I mean, so you typically think of commodities that have value and investors spending their money on that, right? We never think of ourselves, right, as being the vessel that can be invested in. And with crowdfunding, what I learned, because in our first offer, we had only done $5K in revenue, right? We did $5K in revenue and we're able to raise $100,000. What I learned is they weren't investing in my bag of coffee. They were investing in my ability as a founder to have a vision, to see the vision through, and to ultimately, yes, return a profit to them, right, as the investor. But here's the cool thing about crowdfunding that I noticed. Anyone that I ever talked to financially prior to crowdfunding, the primary focus was the dollars and the numbers, right? And the great thing about crowdfunding is, right, so it's got to be, SEC approved. So all the dollars and the numbers are there and they make sense. But with crowdfunding, I noticed the type of person that it draws a person who is okay having a social return as well, right? Where they can look at Dope Coffee and get the financial model for the company, but they realize that what they're investing in is significantly bigger. So it's been a huge boost. My financial acumen has gone up significantly, right? Like things that we just simply don't understand. One of the things that you kind of got into was the way that you finance your business, right? A loan versus so what I issue is a convertible note, right? Or a convertible debt. And simply not understanding the difference of two debt debt type offerings, right? One, I have to pay back immediately. Another converts into equity in my company. And that simply means that they had no problem investing in my future value, right? And so it's a game changer. I don't think there's another financial tool like this available for founders like myself. And one of the things that I didn't really go deeply into about my background is that, and like so many other founders, right, especially for founders of color, like a lot of us are coming out of impoverished situations. And so it's not simply that you don't have money, you don't have knowledge, right? You don't have knowledge about money. And so crowdfunding, it just beefs you up. By the time you're done, I'm not a securities lawyer, but I can understand the lingo, the lingo, excuse me, and be able to play better in that field. So that was a long answer, but.
Well, and one thing that everyone needs to really understand is that it's normal for us not to have a lot of this information because for the most part in this country, investing directly in small businesses and startups has been left to the 1%ers. You really needed, prior to regulation crowdfunding, you needed to be an accredited investor. There's certain other ways that you could have done it, but it was not easy to raise money from the crowd. And I think that we focus a lot purposefully on the advantage to the enterprise that's trying to raise money. But the other thing that we have to understand is that we don't have a mechanism or a vehicle or an asset class in this country that has been open to everyone for the last 80 plus years. So now that individuals, the American people, are now in a position to build wealth for themselves by including direct investing in addition to whatever else they have. And there are a lot of financial advisors now who will talk to people about what percentage of my portfolio should be allocated to direct investing. We get the economy that we invest in. If we are going to change equality and systemic racism and some of the other things that we have going on right now in our country, the wealth and income gap, we're going to have to invest differently. And the people who benefit the most from investing differently are the people who are now able to step into the space and make decisions for themselves about what companies deserve to be funded.
You just hit the nail on the head. And this is why I'm doing Dope Coffee in particular. So, and you may not know this, I actually had a tech company right prior to Dope, and I let it go because I started realizing what to focus on, right? To change our culture, right, if you just look at, like, I'll use Enron, for example, large multinational company that just absolutely destroyed habitats and wildlife, no accountability, right? But if you look at where the money comes from, there should be no accountability, right? These are just these huge, large corporate stakeholders. And you start looking at how do we change our society, right? I look at Dope Coffee as a vessel to do good, right? If you have a corporate entity that can intentionally do good and you fund that, then you have that working in society as opposed to these just large corporations that, it's how the 1% get wealthier because they can finance everything, right? We as the consumers buy it all and send the cash right back up the ladder. And so we got to disrupt it lower in the chain, right? And that's what I see Dope Coffee. I kind of see Dope Coffee as being kind of like an insurgency brand. We're low level, we're grassroots. If the more people we can get on board now, right, the more people that build this kind of critical mass of just intentional good. That is that's a simple phrase, but think about, we're talking about money right now and financing businesses, and then we're also talking about doing good. These are principles that haven't really been connected in capitalism, and we're getting to that point in America, especially like with the evolution of like the B Corp. But even as I look out into that world, I'm like, man, it's mostly just certifications. Like they're not working on our culture, right? And that's what I honestly, and yes, I'm the founder, so I'm going to be a little biased towards Dope Coffee, but the mission is to directly elevate us, and that the financing model is not lost on me that we, and I use this kind of a phrase I like to use, like we can emancipate our own freedom, right? Like if we finance we finance our own good ideas, we create the new future for ourselves, right? And I'll get super excited about that, Michelle.
Yeah,
But we can.
no.
Like, this is the tool for it.
Yeah, it is. And what you're really talking about is a return to corporate citizenship. It used to be in this country that our local small businesses were good citizens. We never would have tolerated the kind of corporate behavior and, you know, all the greenwashing and equality washing and outright lying that our corporations are doing to us. I think Americans have had enough of that, and that is one of the things that we can turn our backs on. We, you know, before investment crowdfunding, which was only been around for 5 years, we really needed help. We needed either, you know, an institution to give us a handout or somebody to do grants or low interest loans. We needed support and help to address the issues of access to capital. With investment crowdfunding, we have now legalized this. So the tool exists. We know we can turn our backs on the systems that don't work for us. And that's really the power here, is we're talking about the people's finance ecosystem, where we can fund and hold businesses accountable to the standards that we want to see and the changes we want to see. We want to see people employed. We want to see them paid. The gig economy that we've gotten into, corporate America has shifted the burden of operations to its people over the course of the last several decades. That's what we're seeing. We get the economy that we invest in, period. That's just the reality that we live with. And the fact that we now have a tool that can change the power, you know, shift that power dynamic is what I know you and I get really excited about, because when you think about the ripple effect of what we can achieve, we can build the communities that we want. I remember writing a blog post not too long ago about America the Ugly. And the point of it was that you could go anywhere in the US and maybe not even recognize whether you were in Kansas or Utah or Colorado, because all of our small communities were looking the same. You could find just about every fast food chain, national chain. You've got communities whose small businesses are dying, but the national chains come in and then they lower the bar. People are trying to raise families on that minimum wage income. It decimates the entire community. It affects everything. It affects philanthropy, civic engagement, all of it.
It's a downward spiral. So what we don't realize as citizens is that we interact with our society through money. And a lot of times I had a hard time seeing that every purchase I made or chose not to make was a direct vote for me on how I wanted to see society exist. So I was, you know, in Dope Coffee, we talk a lot about the Black community, but I want to back up for a second, because when I started Solar Cafe, it was in rural Eastern North Carolina, 99% white town, Sneeds Ferry, right outside of a Marine Corps base. And what I saw in that community, and this is the part that I'm trying to get America to see this. What I saw in my community and what I saw in that community, they were identical, right? Get rid of the difference in like race, maybe some religious preferences and things like that. Like the people, their way of life, and what you just talked about. It's very hard for us to see corporate America kind of dominating everything around us, right? When you're in a small town of 5,000 people and the main strip is just McDonald's, Pizza Hut, you know, Kroger, Target. It's like there won't be a local business, right, to reinvest in the local economy, to invest in the local softball team, to make that donation to the local civic organization, right? Those things won't exist. And so what I noticed is, like, crowdfunding, if we crowdfund more businesses, we put the power in the hands of regular citizens like myself, right? Like, I'm not a wealthy person, so I don't get to continually just accumulate power and wealth, and that's a huge revolution that we need to like not be afraid to fight that fight. Because, you know, if you just look at this past election, if you just look at the billions of dollars that got spent, it's like, hey, hang on a second, we aren't in control, right? It's the same thing in our economy. It's the same thing in the lower that you go down, kind of some of these socioeconomic rungs, you just find that the symptoms are just exacerbated. And so, you know, that's a lot to say. And for a coffee company, one of the things that I see us being able to do is to use our platform to highlight these issues, right? Because they're so tied together. capitalism, money, entrepreneurship, social progress. Anyone who can't see how interconnected and interlinked that all these things are, they're probably not looking close enough, because the reality simply is that business kind of is the foundation of our society. It's how we interact, right? It's there would be no engagement between us as people without commerce and without that type of activity. So let's use this, right? Let's take that. That's not necessarily a bad thing, right? We're as Americans, we are mostly used to business exploiting us, right? Well, and business has a lot of rights. This is something that a lot of individuals don't get. Corporate rights exist. And I don't like that concept, but if you make your corporation do good, this is the fight that we have to fight, I believe. So another long answer, but.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make one more point and ask you one more question, and then we'll wrap it up. My one point that I wanted to make was about, you had talked about this a little bit about, building wealth, and the research is definitive. There's no question about it. Your productivity as a citizen in this country can only take you so far. I don't care what you earn. I don't care what your salary is or what you earn. Your productivity is limited. The way wealth is built is by using money to make money. And if you have to start small, start small. My own children who are in their 20s come to me and say, oh yeah, I'll start investing when this. No, not when this. Not everyone is an entrepreneur. Absolutely. Every single one of us is an investor, and we are accountable for the things that we do or don't do with our money. So that said, and for folks to keep that in mind, kind of tell us where Dope is now, and where are you guys going in the very near future?
Yes. So we, right now, Dope is we're a startup company, right? So one thing that I've had to realize about being a startup is that you're young. And so even though you may feel like you've done a lot, like your time stretch is this long, right? So with that, I say all this in the context of being a young startup. We have explosive potential right now. So I'm super excited that we're working on a few private deals. One I can't go into right now because we're still kind of under an NDA about. We're opening a retail establishment here in the next 60 days. Our direct-to-consumer offerings have really just taken off in a way that I didn't expect, right? So we've been growing for the past year and a half at a rate that I would say Dope Coffee should be America's coffee company, right? And I believe that, right? And I say that as a black founder, right? That we should be America's coffee company. So we've been raising capital as well to really just reinforce our efforts, right? It's about the work, it's about the productivity, but we've been raising capital so that we can do more brand awareness, right? So that we can let more people know about us, so we can just grow our overall engagement. Those things have been going really well. So we're in our second crowdfund right now, as you know, on your platform, Crowdfund Mainstreet. So I'm excited about that, especially as we get ready to kind of close things out. So we have a huge push coming up, just over the next few weeks to go hard at our crowdfund and wrap things up in a way that really, I want to make a statement, right? In our crowdfund, I want to show the world that a black-owned company in the South, right, which are those two demographics almost mean you cannot raise money, that it did happen, right? That we did it in a CPG company, right? Not a tech company, right? These are huge goals that I have for us. So that's where we are. We're just in a position right now where the world is on fire. We have had an outpouring of support from the community. The partnerships that we're working on right now are just frankly, it's something that I also learned through crowdfunding, if I could add this. So crowdfunding for money, right? Crowdfunding for investment dollars has actually led me to more non-cash resources than I ever could have imagined. In fact, so much so that I found myself needing less and less capital. And that's a great position to be in. And so you only get that when you take what you're doing and you put it out in the public and you let it get judged right in front of everyone. Because as folks judge what you're asking for, they'll go, well, I already have this and I don't need to give you any money to give you that resource, right? And so this is where we are, right? We launched the raise. It took courage to go out and say we want to raise capital. And so once you have that courage, what you find is that people will recognize that courage and they will support you once you do that. So we're kind of in that position right now. You know, it's 3 of us on the team, myself, my wife, Shell, and then my cousin, Stace. We are all, we're full of this energy right now. And we're here to show the world that, you know, that founders like us can be America, right? That we could be the coffee brand for America. So that's what we're doing, Michelle. That's what we're doing.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing. I know that the community could use more information like this. It was really delightful to talk to you today.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.
Yes. So we'll be back next Thursday at 11. I will be, for the next few weeks, Michelle and I will be hosting this call live. So I'm super excited. Thank you, Michelle. Just everything that you've done for us at Dope has been wonderful. So this is awesome. If I could give one last plug for any of you guys that are watching, if you are interested in learning more about investing in Dope Coffee, please feel free to shoot me a message. You can email me at michael@realdope.coffee. You can shoot us a DM on any of our social media platforms, or you can go to crowdfundmainstreet.com, which is the platform that Michelle runs, and check out our crowdfund investment offer. I believe there's a few other offers that are currently up on the portal. And yeah, invest today. And please do me one favor. Let as many people as possible know that Dope Coffee is currently raising capital and that we could use their support. I think you would find that it's a great offer. It's really affordable, it's super fast, and it's easy to do. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching us, and I will see you all next week, okay?